Welcome back to another weekend recipe box. So this weekend you are going to have a delicious baked chicken curry. We're going to serve a fluffy white rice on the side, and I'm just going to talk you through the ingredients in a minute, but it is full of flavour, so many delicious spices, and hopefully the chicken should just fall right off the bone after it's had some time in the oven. So I really hope you enjoy it. So I'll just talk you through the ingredients. So actually not too many things this week, and lots of lovely flavours going on. So we've got some brown onions, we've got some ginger, some garlic, we've got 3 cloves of that, and then I'm putting a chilli in, but you don't have to, I just really like it spicy. And then in this bowl here we've just got some coconut milk, 1 can of, and then 1 can of some chopped tomatoes. And then this is the chicken that we're going to be using. I think you're getting drumsticks, I've just got some thighs as well. And what you'll notice is it's obviously on the bone. And some people are a bit funny about eating chicken on the bone, but what happens when you do cook with the bone, it just adds so much more flavour. And also, if you slowly cook it, you'll find that the meat just falls off the bone and is really delicious. Then finally, and most importantly, we've got our spices. So on this plate here, I've got 5 different spices. So I'll just start off with this one here, which is some turmeric. And that's a lovely golden colour. This one here is fennel seed, and that just adds a really sort of lovely aniseedy flavour. Then we've got some coriander seeds, and that's almost sort of lemony and just really aromatic. And then we have some fenugreek, which I almost think is sort of the essence of curry. It's just got a really beautiful flavour. And then finally we've got some cumin seeds, which I think you should be familiar with, as Barney put some on his sweet potatoes last week. So I've just roughly diced the onion quite small, and then I've just done what we usually do to our garlic, so just sort of turning it into a paste. So make sure it's really nice and soft, and just keep working it until it's a really sort of lovely paste like that. And then you can add that into your onions. And then with our ginger, you'll notice I've still got the skin on, that's fine. We're not going to take it off today, we're just going to grate it. And what I will say is with the grater, more accidents happen with a grater than a knife usually. So when you're holding it, sort of hold it nice and flat like this and sort of grate up and down so that you get all of the flesh like this. Keep sort of rotating the ginger as you go because it's quite fibrous, so you get to a point where it's a little bit tricky. So keep going, turning. You can see it's sort of quite hairy in the inside of that. And then when it's really difficult to do any more, just stop. And I always say it's really hard to grate the palm of your hand, but it's really easy to grate the knuckle. So with that just a little bit, I'm just going to stop there. So we're going to scrape out all of the ginger from the grater and then add that into our mix as well. This is the onions, the ginger and the garlic, and I'm just chopping that through until it's a really nice sort of smooth paste consistency. If you've got a food processor, you can pop it in the food processor or any sort of blender, but if you don't, just carry on exactly like I'm doing and just chop really thoroughly until it's nice and paste-like. And then we're going to just move on to the next part. So I'm just going to be frying off the chicken just on the skin side to get it nice and brown. And then we're going to then add into the sort of juices of the chicken, we're going to add the spices and the onion paste and then the coconut milk and the tomatoes. And then we're going to bake the chicken in a sort of baking dish. So to begin with, you want to heat up your sort of pan that you're going to use. So I'm just going to put in a spoonful of some neutral oil, and then with the chicken we're going to place it skin side down into the pan. And before we do that, I'm just going to give it a little bit of a season. So just pop a little bit of salt on the top of the skin, and then just gently lay the chicken into the pan. And we don't want to move it once it's in there. What we're looking for is just to get really nice and golden brown. And the other trick is really try not to overcrowd the pan. So I'm just going to just about get away with having those 4 bits in there, but any more it would be too much. You can see that's really nicely sizzling away, and that's going to get really golden brown and keep that skin crispy. What we don't want is sort of flabby chicken skin. So I'm just going to show you what we're looking for with the colour. Just be careful with splitting chicken, but that is the colour that we're looking for, that really sort of nice golden brown. So just turn the chicken over. So you can see all of the chicken is nice and sort of golden brown. Once it's brown on all sides, we're just going to put it onto a plate and leave it to the side. But you can see that really lovely crispy skin, and that's going to carry on cooking in the oven. So we're not worried about whether it's cooked or not. We're just simply making sure that the chicken skin is lovely and crispy and brown. So you can see how lovely and golden brown that bit of chicken is, and that's really, really important. So just pop it onto a plate just to leave to the side, or you could pop it straight into the baking dish. And then we're going to move on to cooking our spices. So into the same pan, I've just let this cool down a little bit. I'm then just going to pour in all of my spices and then just let those toast off for a minute or so. We don't want them to burn, so just keep them on the move. Just be quite careful, and you'll see this lovely smoke, and you'll have this beautiful flavour. So you'll see it starts to stick a little bit on the bottom. That's totally fine. Just keep them moving all the time, scraping from the bottom. And then once they've had sort of 30 seconds to a minute, we're just going to add in our paste. So our onions, our garlic and our ginger. So in goes our paste. You'll hear that lovely sizzle. Make sure you get all of that in there, and then we're going to cook this off for a couple of minutes just to really soften down the onion and get all of that lovely flavour going. And at this stage, I like to just put in a pinch of salt, season as we go, and that's going to be really, really delicious. If you can see that, nice and golden. That's what the turmeric does. It adds this beautiful colour. So don't leave that out. If it starts to stick, I'm just going to add a little bit more oil just to loosen it down a bit. Cook that off a bit more. So I've just added a splash of water to this as well, just to lift off some of those bits from the bottom. I don't want to keep adding oil because that's just going to make it a bit unhealthy. So just a little splash of water, and you can see how that's really softening up already and becoming sort of quite nice and paste-like. So if you want to make extra of this, you can always make more and then freeze down half of what you don't use, and then you've got a really quick dish to use another time from your freezer. So it is worth almost doing in bulk actually, because then you'll save yourself some time. So that's how I want it to be. So into that now, I'm going to pour in the coconut milk and the tomatoes. I have just given those a blend just because I prefer it that way, but having it chunky is absolutely fine. And then we're just going to give that a stir up, and you'll see it sort of becomes to look what we would associate with a nice curry. And then the most important thing is obviously to give it a good taste, just to check for seasoning, because this is the last chance we have before it goes in the oven. So we're going to cook this down for just a couple of minutes, just to let it all come together. So I just had a taste of mine. It lacks a bit of seasoning, so I'm just going to pop in a bit of salt and see if that makes a difference. So that's exactly how I want it, that lovely golden colour. I've had a taste, it's got a nice amount of seasoning on it. And then all that's left to do is just tip the sauce over the chicken. So I've made too much sauce, so I'm going to pop that away for another day. And that's how much I want for this recipe. And I'm just going to scrape off some of the sauce from the top here. We want those bits to sort of keep cooking and go nice and golden. And we're going to just pop that into a preheated 180 degree oven, and we're going to bake it for 40 minutes to an hour until it's lovely and sort of juicy and falling off the bone. You can see that now. It's looking absolutely delicious. So this is my sort of easiest recipe for rice. So in that saucepan I've measured out 1 cup of rice, so just this sort of size here, and then I'm going to put in double the amount of water. So it's quite easy to remember really. All you're going to do is just measure out double the quantity of water to the amount of rice that you have. So if you have 300 grams of rice, you're going to put in 600 grams of water. And then you're just going to bring it up to a boil like this, put in a pinch of salt, and then we're just going to drop the temperature down to a sort of nice low simmer. Pop the lid on, and then we're just going to leave it for about 10 minutes until it absorbs all of the water. And then we're just going to turn off the heat and let the rest of the work sort of be done by steaming the rice. And I'll show you what that looks like a little bit later. So the rice has had the 10 minutes, and I'm just going to show you what it looks like now. I'm just going to take the lid off. But can you see that? It's lovely and fluffy, and all of the water has been absorbed. So I'm just going to pop the lid back on, and I'm going to leave that for about 10 minutes just to steam away. And then you can keep it warm for whenever you need it. So probably start doing this about half an hour before you want when your chicken is ready, and then it will all come out at the same time and be delicious. So you can see this rice is absolutely beautifully fluffy. One of the biggest sort of tips I'll give you is with rice, it's really important not to sort of stir it with a spoon. Just using a fork, just run that through, and that will break up the grains a little bit. But you can see how lovely and fluffy that rice is. I've made quite a bit just because I like to get some leftovers, and if you do the same, just make sure that you cool it really quickly. So lay it out on a nice sort of flat plate, and then pop it in the fridge as quickly as you can. But that's going to be really delicious. So everything is ready, and this chicken has been in for about 45 minutes now. And you can see that sauce has sort of reduced quite a bit, so it's sort of quite nice and thick. And the meat, you can see, is just falling off the bone, which is exactly what we want. So all that's left really is just to serve up. So I've got my plate here. You don't have to be sort of fancy with this. Just pop a little bit of rice on one side, and then the chicken pieces. So probably 1 drumstick and 1 thigh should be perfect. And then just make sure you get some of that sauce. That's going to be the best bit. Just drizzle that over. And then I like to finish it off with sort of dollop of yogurt and some coriander, but whatever you like. And that is going to be one delicious supper. And you can also serve it alongside some of the flatbreads that you did last week as well. That would be really lovely. So I hope you enjoy it. I hope it wasn't too difficult. Please let us know what you think about the recipes, and if there's anything that you really want us to do, we always want to hear from you. So have a great week and enjoy your food. Bye!